All right, let's try this again. I have some connection issues at my office. Sometimes, especially when the sun comes out, we have a lot of for some reason it interferes with the data, and so I'm really excited to see the sunshine. But it's got some drawbacks too. But definitely the sun is important. So I'm actually talking to you from my my piano here. Actually, I'm using the piano here as a dock for the phone, so that I can talk with my hands. Because as you probably can tell, I tend to talk with my hands a lot. So anyway, the first thing I wanted to do a few things. I wanted to talk a little bit about some science, some kind of rational things that are going on, just to kind of help inform people about some of the research that I've personally done, that might be a little different from maybe what you're hearing. And then at the end, I'm going to do like a little mini biotic session as well. So stay with me. But first, I wanted to say thank you. I'm just really blown away, I guess, and humbled by the amount of response and just the feedback that I've been getting from the body talk session that I did last Saturday to help improve immunity and resilience, and specifically for helping people deal with the coronavirus. I mean, it's kind of crazy. I've had people from like all over the world, like Australia and New Zealand and England and everywhere, reaching out to me and telling me how helpful that was. So I really appreciate that feedback. That really helps me to know that I'm helping and doing what I can to help everybody as we deal with what's going on in the world today. So thank you for that. And if you appreciate what I'm doing today, let me know in the comments, just so I can get a sense for, how I can better serve you. So anyway, thank you so much. And if you haven't taken the time to spend, 50 minutes by yourself to listen to that immune boosting session to build resilience towards the coronavirus, please do that. It'll be well worth it for you. So anyway, I wanted to kind of take off the body talk hat for a second here and just kind of talk to you from a lay perspective. I'm not a scientist. I don't I don't have any official degrees that make me a virologist or a scientist or anything like that. But I do have a brain, and so do you. And I think part of the pathology in our society, I think, is that we have too many people that just depend on the experts to tell them what to do. And I don't buy that. I think that we all have the ability to make informed, rational, intuitive choices with what we do with our lives. So, yeah, in fact, that's how we're going to deal with really, however this turns out, is every individual making their own choices for how to resolve their problems and how to deal with events, and doing the best thing that they can for them and theirs with as much of their rational, intuitive faculties as possible. And then, you might do something that's the opposite of what somebody else needs to do, and that's okay, right? Because you're in a different context, you're in a different light, you're a different person. So this talk is going to be a little bit more rational and a little bit more science-y probably than what you'd expect from a biotic practitioner. But we have two sides of our brain, and I think it's important to use it. Like I said earlier before the video cut out and I had to relocate, if you don't have enough reason, sometimes the intuition can be a little bit overwhelming, and sometimes we don't necessarily know how to interpret those intuitive signals in a healthy way. We need the scaffolding, so to speak, for that intuition to really be meaningful. And then on the other hand, if you don't have intuition, you're just using logic and trying to solve everything with the logical brain, we don't have enough information to process everything logically, And so these two things, your intellect and your intuition, we want them working side by side. So, and that's why in BioTalk we talk about structured intuition. We want both sides of the brain, all parts of the brain really, working as optimally as possible. And that's what the cortices technique is, for those of you that have learned that. If you haven't learned the cortices technique yet, there's several videos down in the video section of the file that teach you how to do it, or you can go to YouTube and do a search for cortices. And, I would say probably almost a lot of BioTalk practitioners have done their own demonstration of how to tap out your cortices and balance your brain. It's a simple enough, folks, that anybody can do it. And honestly, even if that's all you do, that's going to be very helpful to increase your resiliency and your decision-making skills going forward. So I just want to talk a little bit about some of the news that's been going on that you may or may not have seen. There's a lot of information out there that's probably not very mainstream. And so the one thing that I wanted to mention is, and I'm going to say something that's a little controversial, and that's okay. Just stay with me, all right? And then you can choose to agree or disagree with it on your own. But the information that's coming out of Germany, Germany has been testing pretty much everybody for the coronavirus. And what they're discovering is that the actual morbidity rate, or the mortality rate, the rate in which people actually get sick from the virus if they do contract it, it's actually very similar to the flu virus, the really bad flu virus that we had in the year 2018 and 19. So I know, I say that, and a lot of people freak out, and they tell me that no, it's way worse than that. But the reality is when you test everybody that as opposed to just the people that are sick, what they've discovered is that the percentage of people that actually have the virus who actually then die, the death rate is actually only a little bit over 0.1%, which is the same as the previous flu. And I'm going to link to that article in the comments below if you'd like to research that for yourself. But this is credible information that comes straight from international databases of virology. So if the mortality rate is the same as the flu, right? Why are we so worried about it? Oh, there is reason to be concerned, and the reason for that is the coronavirus, simply because it is more virulent, right? The odds of you actually getting infected by it, they probably are higher than the flu. We don't actually have statistics on actual rate of transmission yet, but what we do have is, we know that the incubation period is longer. So people are going to be having the virus in them and walking around for longer before they notice they're sick. And so, it's quite likely that they're going to be infecting people more. And then the other thing is, because it's a heavier virus, it doesn't get the wind resistance as much. I don't know exactly all the physics behind it, but they say that it's got about a 10-foot aerosol spray as opposed to a 6 feet like a common flu does. So it is true that it's more virulent. You have a higher chance of maybe contracting it than you do with the flu. But in terms of if you do catch it, it's really, all of the statistics are telling us that it's not any more harmful really than the regular flu virus. And it just goes to show you how efficient that the people in Germany are, because here in the United States we've been having trouble getting testing supplies out to test people, but in Germany they've got a much more market-based system where lots of different companies and vendors are are have ways to test for the virus, and so they've been better able to kind of keep on top of that and just find out for sure how many people are actually ill. And so, just kind of as an aside, I've seen a lot of conspiracy theories out here about the CDC and the FDA and all of this stuff, and how they're inefficient, or Trump's inefficient, or the Democrats are inefficient, whatever. But I don't know really anything about that. It doesn't really matter. From my perspective, everybody's doing the best job they can. It's just that, because the CDC and the FDA and the government, they're monopolies, they're outside of the market structure. And so because of that, it's kind of playing with one hand behind their back. You can, like I said, this is a more cerebral talk than what you'd expect from a biotech practitioner. But, Frederick Hayek was a Nobel Prize winning laureate back in the early 1900s. And he actually talked about the information that's inherent in the pricing system. So just like your body has lots of different ways to communicate with itself, society has lots of different ways to communicate with itself too. And the pricing structure that signals the balance of supply and demand is one of those more abstract ways that society communicates. And so, for a place like an organization like the CDC or the FDA or things like that, they're kind of outside of that market structure, right? And so because of that, they're missing some of the signals, and so that makes it difficult for them to be efficient, and makes it difficult for them to plan and coordinate things. So, but the good news is, the FDA is now allowing states to do the certifications for the virus testing. So while it's not a market system, it's much more liberalized than it would have been. So anyway, so that's the main gist of the news that I wanted to let you know about, is the actual morbidity rate, like the odds of you dying if you contract the coronavirus, it's 0.1%, a little bit higher than that. So which is the same as, a really virulent strain of the flu. Now, that said, it is more easily contractable, and so that's part of what I'm talking to you here, is I want to empower you to make your own rational decisions. Like I said in the beginning of the video, every single one of us choosing how to take care of ourselves and doing the most rational and intuitive things that we can for ourselves is how we're going to deal with this. So there's two things that I think from a very physical medicine level a person can do. Now, I'm not a nutritionist. I'm not a physicist. I'm not a chemist. But like I said in the beginning of the video, I have a brain and I can think for myself, and so can you. And I want you to be able to do that. That said, I do have a physics and math degree from Augustana. I studied organic chemistry for 2 semesters. I spent a good 10 years studying orthomolecular nutrition as a layperson, and also as a customer service rep for a nutritional supplement company. So that's my background, but enough about me. So there's 2 things that I would like to talk about, and one of them is vitamin D. And I want to just share a little bit about what vitamin D does. And this is why and you actually see this from some of the epidemiologists that are talking about this. They actually feel like when the sun comes out in a couple weeks, a lot of this will just kind of disappear eventually, because the vitamin D intake that people have is going to be much higher. So if you don't know this already, vitamin D comes from the sun. But what a lot of people don't realize is that it's a very important part of the immune system. So I got my cats running around here in the back. So the vitamin D, it's like a kind of a hormone, and it actually gets inside the cells, and it helps to protect the cell structure. So what a virus does is it gets inside the cell. And for those of you who have watched the healing video that I did last Saturday, and we did some work on making it easier for the cells to know whether it's the virus or not, so that we have less issues. But just a second here. But the vitamin D is actually kind of an immune system inside the cell. So the virus gets inside the cell, And what the virus does is it goes and it tries to hook itself into either the DNA or the RNA apparatus of the cell to try to get your own cells to manufacture more of the virus. That's what it does. And the vitamin D is a signaling hormone, and you can do a Google search on vitamin D and immunity, and I'll find one and share that also in the links in the comments on this once I get done here. But the basically what happens is the vitamin D will it tells the DNA to manufacture interferon, and so interferon is an antiviral, and basically helps to prevent the virus from taking over the cellular apparatus. So say the virus gets inside the cell. If you have high high vitamin D status inside the cell, the cell has the ability to basically interfere, or hence the word interferon. The cell has the ability to interfere and prevent that virus from plugging into the machinery and hijacking it for its own purposes. So, and this is why the flu largely is not really a problem in the summertime, because people have higher vitamin D statuses, and so flu season happens in the winter, right? So one of the things that you can do for yourself as a purely physical thing that you can do is increase your vitamin D intake. Now there's debate about whether vitamin D2 is better or vitamin D3. I'm not going to get into that right now. The main thing is people in the northern hemisphere tend to be deficient in general, and really anything that you can do to increase your vitamin D status is going to be beneficial. Now, like I said, I'm not a nutritionist, so don't take this as medical advice. You do your own thing. But I do know that, when you go out sunbathing, it only takes about 20 minutes or so for your body to manufacture about 20,000 international units of vitamin D. So once you've done that, your body will stop making it. As a biotic practitioner and just as somebody who believes that our body is intelligent and it's designed to take care of itself, if your body isn't going to stop manufacturing its own vitamin D until after it makes 20,000 international units, just from my perspective, I think it would be hard for you to overdose on it. You can overdose on vitamin D, so you don't want to be taking mega doses of it forever, but 5 or 10,000 international units regularly, at least for the next few weeks until the sun comes out, is probably a good idea to do. And then the other thing I want to talk to you about is vitamin C. People talk about how viruses will kind of like liquefy the organs. There's a really good book called Curing the Incurable by Dr. Thomas Levy, and he actually documents all of the case studies that Dr. Kleiner had with intravenous vitamin C infusions, helping people. He cured leprosy and tuberculosis and all sorts of different viral infections with the super high dose vitamin C. And now when I say high dose, I mean high dose, right? We're talking 50, maybe 100, maybe 200 grams per infusion, right? So to get the kind of therapeutic doses that, cured, I'll say it, it's possible to cure things with supplements, and you would have to take a lot, and you might not be able to get enough dietarily in order to make that happen. So if you have access to that kind of thing, though, definitely take it. Certainly keeping your vitamin C status up by taking a few grams a day is certainly something else that you can do that will give your body what it needs. So the thing that vitamin C does, so people don't realize this, but the primary function of vitamin C is actually tissue repair. It's kind of like the glue that binds the soft tissue together in order to create the collagen matrix, in order to create the basement membrane to keep everything stable within the body, within the physical body. Dr. Levy has another book called Stopping America's Number One Killer, I believe it's called, and it's all about and I'll link to both of these in the comments, but it's basically all about heart issues, and arteriosclerosis and things like that, and how a healthy vitamin C status can repair the inner walls of the arteries and things like that. But again, in order to get therapeutic benefit, you got to take a lot. But there is good news about that. Live On Labs has a lipospheric nutritional supplement that allows you to actually absorb it. So one of the problems with vitamin C is if you take gobs of it orally, it'll just pass through your system, and it'll just be wasted because your stomach can only absorb a certain amount of it. It can only absorb so much at a time. Some vitamin C researchers actually believe that humans are supposed to manufacture their own vitamin C internally, and in fact, we do have the genetic codes to make our own vitamin C, just like all the animals do. But for whatever reason, one of the codes to make one of the enzymes that's required for us to make our own vitamin C is dormant, and that's an interesting conundrum. Sometimes I wonder if Body Talk could use like a cellular repair technique, perhaps to help to open that up and figure out, why that kind of mutation has happened in humanity. But I digress. Anyway, but the point is it's hard to absorb it orally in order to get high doses. But Live On Labs, what they've done is they've figured out how to take the vitamin C and create a liposome structure. So a liposome is like a fat bubble, basically, and it's made of the same types of lipids. It's made up of phospholipids, which is the same type of fats that the cell walls are made out of in the cell structure of your body. So what they've done is they've figured out a way, and it's called liposome encapsulated technology. And there's a couple of other companies that do it, but I feel like Live On Labs is really the only one that's got really good quality, reputable ability to have the liposomes be stable. But what happens is the vitamin C is literally inside the phospholipid bubble, and so then when you take it, instead of your stomach absorbing vitamin C, the stomach actually will absorb the phospholipid bubble, and the absorption pathways is very different. Every single cell in your body needs the essential phospholipids in order for the cell membrane, for the cell wall to maintain a healthy structure, and so it just absorbs directly into the bloodstream. And in fact, it absorbs directly into the cells. So I know Dr. Levy in his clinical experience has actually said that at least when treating viral issues, there might be other applications where this isn't true, but at least when treating viral issues, he actually believes that the lipospheric vitamin C is actually more potent gram for gram than intravenous even. And the reason for that is because intravenous vitamin C, yes, it gets directly into the bloodstream. You pop it in the vein and just shoot it. But what happens is if the vitamin C goes into the bloodstream, yes, but if it doesn't actually get taken out of the bloodstream and into the cells, so there's another bioavailability layer there getting from the bloodstream into the cells. Remember in the healing session we talked about last time, preventing the virus from getting into the cells is part of the immune system. That's one of the gatekeepers. Well, that gatekeeper can sometimes keep nutrients out too. And so the lipospheric vitamin C, what happens is the cells reach out and they grab the phospholipid because it needs it. And then what happens as it's taking that apart, there's the vitamin C inside. And it's like, it's Christmas, there's vitamin C here too. And so your cells do the happy dance because it's got a 2-for-1 special, right? And so I have some lipospheric vitamin C on hand that's on its way. It'll probably be here in about a week. So I will let people know when I have that available. But so what ends up what happening is, when you get sick, what happens is all of that vitamin C that's in the soft tissue, that's maintaining and holding the membrane, that's maintaining the structural integrity of the cells, the structural integrity of the collagen, the structural integrity of the basement membranes of the blood vessels, all of that. What happens is, your body saps all the vitamin C out of the out of those resources and reallocates it to fighting the virus, right? So if you've got a really high viral load, what happens is all that vitamin C leaves the tissues, and so then the tissues don't have vitamin C in them anymore, and that's actually what causes the liquefaction. Dr. Levy talks about that in Curing the Incurable, and he even mentions that Ebola, for example, it's really what happens in Ebola is, because of all the vitamin C going to attack the virus, it creates this immediate acute scurvy is really what happens. But the good news is, if you have a healthy vitamin C status, if you're not malnourished in the first place, then you've got reserves to deal with it. And my cats are knocking down my thing here. All right. I'll have to show my cats to you here in a second. But right now I've got my phone docked in exactly the right way I need it in order for it to stay there. So anyway, in fact, I know when the Ebola scare happened, I was in high school when that happened. So that was the late 90s. And but the fact is there were nurses that were exposed to Ebola that never even developed symptoms. Another issue here is, so malnourishment is a really important part of this. So these are two things that you can do, right? You can go and increase your vitamin D status right away. You can find vitamin D anywhere. You can go and take 10,000 international units a day for the next couple weeks, and check with your doctor. Obviously, there might be some of you that have some genetic issues, or there might be some of you that have some issues that maybe you already have too high vitamin D levels. That's possible. But for the most part, you can go and safely take 5,000 or 10,000 international units of vitamin D a day, and not have, especially if it's a short-term thing for the next few weeks, you're probably not going to have any issues with that. And then with the same thing with the vitamin C, if you can upgrade your vitamin C levels, you'll have reserves. So the vitamin D, in many ways, can prevent viral infections from even getting into the cell and doing what they try to do. I mean, if the vitamin D can prevent the virus from getting into the cell and replicating in the first place, then that's amazing, right? Oh, and the other thing with vitamin D too is, not only does it create interferons, but it also is a signaling to help your body manufacture antibiotics. So it works on that level as well. So vitamin D and high dose vitamin C. So if you don't have access to an IV, at least start taking vitamin C, and then you'll have those reserves for if you do end up having an issue. So this is one of the main points that I hope people understand, is really a lot of these issues are caused by malnourishment, right? People that aren't healthy and aren't well nourished are much more susceptible to viral infections than people that aren't. And that's why people are so concerned about the older people, people that have, heart issues or diabetes or things like that, because their system's already compromised, and then it creates problems. Now, for those of you who do have those issues, again, listen to the healing video that I did. One of the things that came up in this session was the ACE2 receptors. And I'm not going to promise that it's going to completely solve the issue, but what happens is people that are on those drugs, the ACE2 inhibitor drugs, there's less ACE2 inhibitors, which means that there's more receptors for ACE2. There's less ACE2 around because the drugs are inhibiting them, which means there's more receptors to receive them, and so what ends up happening is that makes them more susceptible for the virus to get in. So for those people especially, take your vitamin D so that you've got defenses inside there, and take your vitamin C as much as possible. Both of these nutrients are super cheap. There's really no reason why everybody shouldn't be taking, these basic things to keep themselves healthy. So yeah, like malnourishment is the real issue. So make sure that you stay nourished, and make sure that you take care of yourself, right? Yeah, so that's really kind of what I wanted to talk to you about. I wanted to, and to stay with me, I'm going to do like a little mini biotalk session too. But I know, like, these issues about the actual death rate being less than, being basically about the same as the flu, even though it is easier to catch. And then how vitamin D and vitamin C are two things you can put in your arsenal to help, create resilience for yourself. In addition, if you're an Access graduate, make sure you're doing your body chemistry routine every day. That's very, very powerful. And feel free to watch the video that I did. But what I wanted to do is I will do a little mini body talk session too at the end of this for those of you that are watching. But I just wanted to make the point that I want to empower you, right? I want to help you do you, and be able to take the best care of yourself. I had one thought that just escaped me, but maybe I'll have to write it in the comments or something at the end here. Okay. Oh, I know what I was going to say. I was going to talk about how logic and reason, like a lot of times in sometimes especially in like intuitive healing systems, we or people that are trying to develop their intuition, sometimes logic can kind of get in the way, and so we tend to sometimes almost think of it as something that's not healthy, or just I wish it would shut up so that way our intuition can work better. And I do a lot of emotional release things. I mean, there are things that need to be released emotionally through just feeling the emotion and letting it talk to you. But I know I've had a lot of people asking me why I'm not afraid, even almost accusing me of being irresponsible for not being afraid of the virus. And for me, I don't think, even before I knew Body Talk, I don't think I would have been concerned about it, just because I know what vitamin D is for. I know what vitamin C is for. I know how to beef up my own internal immune system so that I don't have to worry about it. And so, when you really, if you can see reality clearly, and many times logic and reason are how we do that, many times we can actually learn that maybe there's nothing to be afraid of in the first place, right? So that's what I want to talk about with logic. And you can actually use logic and reason to help yourself realize that there's nothing to be afraid of. And then that's half the battle, right? Then you still might need to do some emotional work of feeling the emotion that's left after you've come to those conclusions. But I'm not saying that certainly if you do have some fear, that's okay too, right? I mean, we're all at different places in our intellectual and spiritual and emotional development, and that's okay. All right. So, all right, I promised you a little mini body talk session, and we're going to go ahead and do that. So just give me a moment here, and I'm going to just kind of get centered here so I can really see what's needed for the group and everybody that's viewing this. Okay. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to tap our cortices together. If you haven't learned how to tap your cortices, just follow along, and I'll just do it with you. I do have videos in the back, but basically we're just focusing on connecting the two sides of the brain together. So I'm going to put my hand on the back of my head, and I'm going to focus on connecting the two sides of my brain together. And you can do this with me, and you can focus with me. All right. So we're just saying, hey brain, take a look at any new connections that we can make. Take a look at any new things we can save. Take a look at any new things that we can integrate. And then we're going to move to the next hand position. And we're going to connect the two sides of our brain here and make them work as efficiently as possible. All the different communication systems, right? Not just the nerve, but also the, all the chi, all of the radio waves, blood, lymph, all the different communication systems. We want them all to have high coordination, high communication, high cooperation. So we can just go ahead and do cortices together. Just tapping that out. And just, again, there's nothing magical about the hand positions, but you want to have a mental focus on how can I increase the, the communication? How can I better increase the resilience and the ability for the two sides of the brain to really talk to each other? And just coming down the midline of the brain. And this is what I was talking about earlier, this free prefrontal cortex, right? We want the intellect and the intuition to be working as one, right? Working as a single unit. Okay, and we're going to focus on the emotional centers. So go ahead and take your hand. Just kind of imagine that you're shining flashlights into your brain, and we're going to connect the temporal lobes together and the emotional centers so that we can... Okay, just take a deep breath. All right, so what I'm doing is I'm holding space for everybody that's watching the video. The focus is being transmitted, through the audio, so anybody that is watching this video is going to be able to get benefits from it. Okay, so the first thing that's coming up here for me is, for everybody that's watching, is we're going to do a 5 senses balancing. So this kind of goes back to what I was talking about before. We don't actually see reality for what it is. We see our interpretation of reality. And so what we can, as a body talk practitioner, we have ways of breaking down those filters and those files so that we can more accurately see reality clearly, so that we can interpret reality more accurately. So everybody just go ahead and put your hand on your face. This is going to represent the eyes, nose, ears, all 5 of the senses: touch, taste. And we're going to be individuating this into the heart, so really breaking down all of the coping mechanisms, belief systems, fears, phobias, all those issues that have maybe gotten on top of our ability to see clearly. And we're just going to break down and defrag all those filters. so that we can see reality, hear reality, taste, touch, feel, smell reality. Both our memories of it, our intuitive senses of it, as well as our senses of it clearly, so that we can actually be more able to know what's going on and not be functioning from a place of expectation or fear, or whatever the case may be. So go ahead and tap over your head and heart. All right, so let's see what else comes up today in this little mini session that we're doing. So I'm staying in the section 1. So what's coming up here is we're actually looking at the chakra system as a whole. So like I said in the other video, if you're not familiar with the chakras, there's energy centers at 7 different kind of main points in the body, and you can actually measure these with measure the piezoelectric currents in the body and actually find these. So there is scientific validity to some of the philosophies that the ancient Vedics had. So we're looking at the chakra system. And this is linking into the heart. So like, yeah. So this isn't the heart and brain, this is the heart. This is the actual organ of the heart. Like the whole heart energy center. It's kind of a two-way street here. We're wanting to make sure that the chakras are able to talk to the heart. We're wanting to make sure the heart's able to talk to the chakras, so that those higher frequencies of the chakra system can be, downloaded into the actual physical heart, so the heart can use that information in a healthy way. Again, see reality clearly, so to speak. Many of the chakras actually get information directly from the through our subtle senses. So, and then also our heart going back to the chakras to kind of interpret and contextualize. Okay, so go ahead and just hold your heart, and we're just going to go ahead and tap over the head. We can implement that upgrade, and then tap over the heart, and then tap over the gut. Okay. All right. All right, so we're staying in section 1. So I'm going into 5-element balancing. So in Chinese medicine, you've got the 5 main elements. You've got the contraction phase, you've got the growth phase, you've got maximum expansion, and then usually it kind of a little bit of a pause when we expand. Like if you take a deep breath, usually pause for a second, and then the contraction, and then back down to the maximum expansion. So we're looking at that cycle within the body mind, and we're looking at the water element, and we're looking specifically at that intersection between the death and rebirth. So I feel like this is really kind of a lot of what's going on in the world right now is like a lot of old systems that maybe aren't so healthy anymore are coming to an end, so that we can make room for like new healthy ways of doing things, new healthy systems, new healthy so there's a transition here that's happening between the end and the beginning of a new cycle. And we're gonna do something to help make that transition a little easier here, okay? So what's coming up here is just kind of holding everybody in compassion, like really focusing on all of the individual actors that are in the world today, whether you're an individual, whether you're a consumer, whether you're a business owner, whether you're a customer, whether you're somebody that works in the government, whether you're a politician, whatever it is. And there's a real sense that we need to kind of hold them, everybody really, in compassion, that they can make the best decisions for society as a whole, for themselves and society as a whole. So this might be a little bit more difficult for, some people than others, but that's what we're going to focus on. And that's my cat coughing. I'm going to take a little second here to calm her down. You okay? I'm just going to tap her cortisone real quick. She's having a coughing fit here. You okay? Yeah? Okay. All right. So back to this cycle, this death and rebirth cycle. Yeah, I feel like that's kind of the primary, water represents the fear element as well. That's the element that governs fear. And that's kind of the primary fear, I think, that a lot of people are having too, is, will people make the right decisions? Will we make decisions that increase our health, increase our prosperity, increase our liberty, or will we make decisions that, are counterproductive to those goals? And so what we're doing here is I'm just going to kind of run like a defrag on this kind of fear that a lot of us probably have, just to help to kind of break that up, to help the cycle just kind of move in a healthier fashion here. Okay, so that feels good. We can go ahead and tap over our head and heart. Okay. And I think we've got one more little thing that's coming up here. Going into section 4. Got a circulation. So this is interesting. I've never really done a session on like the globe before or on society, but what's coming up is the information signal that's inherent in the supply-demand curve. Like I said, that important piece of information that people need in order to make accurate and rational decisions for what to do with their resources. We need to plug. Hey, Sugar. This is Sugar, everybody. We need to plug that circulation to, from, and within the water element. So then that's one of the things that'll kind of help this feedback work. All right, so go ahead and tap over your head and heart. All right, and that's what we got today. So this session was a little bit more esoteric, so to speak, or a little bit more, it wasn't quite as into the nitty gritty of the cells and things like that as the last one was. But hopefully you enjoyed it and got some benefit out of it. If you did enjoy my talk, please let me know in the comments below. That helps me know that I'm serving you as best I can. It also helps the aggregators know. It helps to make the video more popular too, so more people see it. And if you thought this was helpful, please share it on your wall, or feel free to share it with your peeps. And everybody get as much electrons and sunshine as possible in the next few weeks. Sounds good. All right, you guys have a wonderful day. Thanks.